She was sitting on the steps of the Mineral Creek post office when he found her, which was where she had been sitting for 2 hours because she had nowhere else to be, and the steps were outside, and outside did not cost anything. It was the 3rd week of October, 1882, and May Colton was 7 months pregnant in a town she had arrived in 11 days ago and had not planned to stay in and could not leave. She had not planned on any of it. She had not planned on Mineral Creek, Colorado, or the 11 days, or the sitting on the steps. What she had planned was San Francisco, which was where her husband had told her they were going, which was why she had gotten on the train with him in Chicago in the 1st week of October, which was why she was 7 months pregnant on a train at all, which she would not have been if she had known that the plan did not include San Francisco, or her, or the baby. The plan had included, as far as she could reconstruct it from the evidence, a woman in Denver named Louise, which was where the train had stopped for one night, which was where her husband Martin had gotten off to stretch his legs and not gotten back on. She had waited until the conductor told her she had to get off in Mineral Creek or ride to the next stop, which was 80 miles further into the mountains and had even less to recommend it. She had gotten off in Mineral Creek. That had been 11 days ago. If you have ever been left in the middle of something you didn't start and couldn't finish alone, stay with me to the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this one travels. She had money enough for 8 days at the boarding house run by a woman named Mrs. Toll, who had looked at her situation with the assessment of a woman who had seen situations and handed her a key without editorial. The 8 days had become 9 when Mrs. Toll extended them without being asked, and 9 had become 10, and 10 had become 11, at which point Mrs. Toll had sat down across from May at the kitchen table and said, "I can't keep extending it indefinitely, not because I don't want to, because I also have to eat." "I know," May had said. "You need work," Mrs. Toll had said, which was accurate and also plainly impossible given the 7 months and the specific way the 7 months had arranged themselves on her body, which made every potential employer in Mineral Creek look at her with the particular expression of someone deciding against a thing they were already not going to do. She had tried 6 businesses, 6 no's, and so she was on the post office steps. The rancher came out of the post office with his mail and nearly walked over her. He stopped. He looked down. She looked up. He was perhaps 35, wearing the coat of a working man in the specific way that meant he was in town for the morning and intended to be back on a ranch by noon. He had the kind of face that communicated, without doing anything in particular, that he was someone who said what he meant. He looked at her on the steps, and then at her condition, and then at the carpet bag beside her, which she had brought because she had not wanted to leave it at Mrs. Toll's, and did the arithmetic. "Ma'am," he said. "I'm not in your way," she said. "I'll move." "You're not in my way," he said. "Are you all right?" She had been asked this in various forms 11 times in 11 days, and had said yes every time because yes was shorter and more manageable than the real answer. She looked at this man. "No," she said. He was quiet for a moment. "Is there someone coming for you?" he said. "No," she said. He stood with his mail in his hand and looked at the street and back at her with the expression of a man doing more arithmetic. "Can you cook?" he said. She looked at him. "Yes," she said. "My name is Del Rourke," he said. "I have a ranch 2 miles east. I have a ranch hand named Ames who has been cooking for us both for 6 months and has been deeply unhappy about it the entire time. I need someone who can manage the house." She looked at him. "I'm 7 months along," she said. "In case you hadn't noticed." "I noticed," he said. "In 2 months I won't be able to do much," she said. "2 months of a cook is better than what I have now," he said. "And after the 2 months we'll work out what comes next." She looked at the street. She thought about Mrs. Toll's kitchen table. "Room and board," she said. "And $3 a month," he said. "4," she said. He looked at her. "4," he said. She picked up the carpet bag. The ranch was what he'd said, working, unadorned, maintained by men whose attention was on cattle rather than comfort. The house was clean in the functional way. The kitchen had everything needed and nothing extra, and had been used in the way of men who cooked only because something had to be done about hunger. Ames was 50, compact, and greeted her arrival with the unconcealed relief of a man who has been doing a job he hates and has just been told he doesn't have to anymore. "Can you make biscuits?" he said. "Yes," she said. "Real ones?" he said. "Yes," she said. He went back to the barn with the expression of a man whose prayers had been answered. Dell showed her the house without ceremony, where things were, what needed doing, what the ranch hands ate, and when. He did not ask her about the carpet bag, or the post office steps, or the absence of anyone who should have been with her. He showed her the back bedroom with the window that faced east, and said, "That's yours," and left her to settle. She made biscuits that first afternoon. Dell ate too and said nothing. Which she was learning was how he said something was right. She settled into the ranch the way she settled into everything now, one day at a time, not looking further than the day required, because looking further than the day required had stopped being something she could afford. She ran the kitchen. She organized the pantry in the first week and balanced the household account in the second. Dell handed her the account book without ceremony when she mentioned it, in the same way he'd said, "That's yours," about the bedroom, as though the practical action of putting things where they belonged was obvious. Ames came to meals with the focused appreciation of a man who had been given back several hours of his day and was not going to waste them. Dell ate. She cooked and she kept the house, and she did not think about Martin, which was not the same as not thinking about Martin, but was the closest thing available. On the 11th day at the ranch, she was in the kitchen in the evening when Dell came in from the barn and said, "Do you want to talk about it?" She looked at him. "About what?" she said. "Whatever it is," he said. "You don't have to. I'm asking because you've been here 11 days and you haven't said anything about where you came from, and I think that's costing you something." She looked at the stove. She told him. She told him about Chicago and the train and Denver and the woman named Louise and the conductor and Mineral Creek. She told it plainly, without ceremony, the way she'd learned in 11 days to tell things that had to be gotten through. He listened. When she finished, the kitchen was quiet. "Do you have family?" he said. "A sister in Ohio," she said. "We're not close." "Have you told her?" he said. "No," she said. He nodded. He did not say what she expected him to say, which was that she should tell her sister, or that things would be all right, or any of the things people said when they did not know what to say. He said, "Thank you for telling me." She looked at him. "It's useful to know," he said. "What someone is carrying makes it easier to not make it worse." She looked at the pot on the stove. "That's an unusual thing to say," she said. "Is it wrong?" he said. "No," she said. He poured his coffee and sat at the table and read his mail and let her finish supper in the quiet that was, she was finding, the specific kind of quiet that did not require filling. The 8th week was when the cold came. Colorado high country cold in December was a committed thing, not the cold of a place that was trying. It was the cold of a place that had decided. The ranch contracted into itself, the daily world narrowing to the barn, the house, the necessary distances between them. She was moving more slowly. She was aware of this, and was aware that Dell was aware of it, and that he had been quietly adjusting things without mentioning it. The wood was stacked closer to the kitchen door than it had been in October. The water barrel had moved inside. The heaviest kitchen tasks seemed to handle themselves in the way that things handled themselves when someone else handled them before you could. She did not mention this. He did not mention it either. On a Tuesday in the first week of December, she was at the stove in the late afternoon when the first real contraction arrived. Not the practice one she'd been having for 2 weeks. The real kind, which announced itself with the specific authority of something that had decided it was time. She held the edge of the stove and breathed and counted and determined that it was early yet. She also determined that she needed to tell Dell. He was in the barn. She went to the barn. He was mending a bridle, and looked up when she came in, and looked at her face, and put the bridle down. "Now?" he said. "Not yet," she said. "But today?" He stood. "Is there a doctor in Mineral Creek?" she said. "There's a woman named Mrs. Hale who has done this before," he said. "8 times. Can you get her?" she said. "Ames?" he said. Ames appeared from the back of the barn in the way Ames appeared when he was needed, which was immediately. "Ride into town," Dell said. "Get Mrs. Hale." Ames got his coat. 2 miles? Dell said to May. "An hour at most." "All right," she said. He walked her back to the house. The labor was long. Mrs. Hale arrived in 40 minutes, which was better than an hour, and she was a woman of 60 who had the specific competence of someone who had done a thing many times and had stopped being alarmed by any of the forms it took. She came into the kitchen and looked at May, and looked at the situation and said, "Good. You're not too far along yet. We have time to do this right." She directed Dell out of the bedroom. He went without argument. He built up the fire. He boiled water when Mrs. Hale asked for it, and brought it when it was ready, and did not stand in the doorway or ask questions through the door. He was simply available, which was exactly what was needed. At some point in the late hours, May was aware, between contractions, of the sound of him in the kitchen, not pacing, just present, moving occasionally, the sound of a man who was staying. She had not expected anyone to stay. Martin had not been a man who stayed. Between one contraction and the next, she thought about this with the clarity that pain sometimes brought, the simplification that arrived when there was nothing left to spend attention on except what mattered. She thought about what it meant that a man she had known for 8 weeks was in the kitchen of his own house in the middle of the night because she needed someone to be there. She thought, this is what staying looks like. The baby came in the early morning. A girl, 5 pounds, loud from the first breath, with the outraged expression of someone who had been somewhere satisfactory and was making her objections to the change known. Mrs. Hale put her in May's arms. May looked at her. The baby looked back with the unfocused intensity of the newborn, the particular absolute presence of a person who had just arrived and was taking the full inventory. "Hello," May said. The baby screamed. "Yes," May said. "I know." Dell knocked on the door at 7:30. Mrs. Hale had gone an hour before, satisfied, with the practical briskness of a woman who had places to be. "Come in," May said. He came in. He stopped at the door. She was in the bed with the baby against her chest. The baby had stopped screaming and was doing the thing newborns did, which was sleep with the absolute commitment of someone who had used up everything they had. He looked at the baby. He looked at May. He was a man who did not make his face do things for other people's benefit, and she had learned to read him in 8 weeks, and what she read in his face now was something she did not have a word for but recognized. The specific expression of someone looking at something they are glad exists. "A girl?" she said. "Yes," he said. "She was loud about it," she said. "I heard," he said. He came a little further into the room. "How are you?" he said. "Tired," she said. "All right." He looked at the baby. "Does she have a name?" he said. May had not thought about names. She had been not thinking about the future in the specific way she had not been doing that since Denver, and a name was the future. A name was the declaration of an ongoing person, which required looking ahead. She looked at the baby. "Not yet," she said. "You have time," he said. He looked at the two of them for a moment more. "There's coffee," he said. "When you're ready." "Thank you, Dell," she said. He nodded once, the nod that meant what it always meant with him, which was, of course, it was the right thing. Nothing more needs to be said about it. He went to make breakfast. She named the baby Ruth, not after anyone. After the sound of it, the specific plain sound of a name that did not require anything of the person who held it. Dell said when she told him. Good name. Ames said. Strong name. Ruth said nothing, being 4 days old and having other priorities. The winter went on. She was not able to do the full work of the kitchen, and she knew it, and Dell knew it, and neither of them made anything of it. Ames cooked with less suffering than he had before she'd arrived, having apparently learned something in the 2 months she'd been there, and Dell managed the rest with the quiet efficiency of a man who had been managing things a long time. She recovered. Ruth grew in the specific daily way of infants that you did not notice until you did, and then you noticed it all at once. On an evening in January, Dell came in from the barn, and Ruth was on the kitchen table in the basket that served as her bed, awake, doing what she did when she was awake, which was to look at everything within range with the serious inventory she brought to all new information. Dell sat down and looked at her from across the table. She looked at him. This went on for a while. She doesn't blink much, he said. She's taking notes, May said. On what? He said. Everything, May said. She's going to have opinions. He looked at Ruth. She looks like she already does, he said. Ruth, as if in confirmation, made a sound that was not a cry but was a statement. Yes, Dell said to her. I see that. May stood at the stove and did not let her face do what it wanted to do, which was something too large for the kitchen to hold. February. She had been at the ranch for 4 months. Ruth was 10 weeks old and had developed, in the specific way of babies that you did not see coming, a preference. She was calm in May's arms and Ames's arms and had tolerated most of the neighbors who had come to see her. With Dell, she was different. With Dell, she went quiet in the absolute way of someone who had arrived at the thing they were looking for. She tracked him when he moved. She held his finger when he offered it, with the grip that babies had that was more than their size suggested. He did not make a production of this. He simply sat with her when she was handed to him and talked to her in the low, matter-of-fact way he talked to things he was around. The horses, the cattle, the ranch in general, which he narrated to himself while he worked in the way of a man who thought out loud and had long since stopped being self-conscious about it. May watched this. She watched it the way she had been watching everything for 4 months, which was carefully and without knowing what she was going to do with what she saw. On a Sunday evening in February, she was at the table with the household account, and Dell was in the chair by the fire, and Ruth was asleep against his chest, which was where Ruth had gone to sleep because she had decided this was correct, and Dell had not argued. Dell, she said. He looked up from the book he was reading over Ruth's head. I need to ask you something, she said. Ask it, he said. When I came here, she said, you said after the 2 months we'd work out what came next. Yes, he said. It's been 4 months, she said. Yes, he said. I haven't gone anywhere, she said. No, he said. Is that? She stopped. I'm asking if the arrangement is still what you want it to be, because I'm aware that I came here for 2 months, and I've been here twice that, and I have a baby, and I've not been at full capacity, and I want to know if you want me to. May, he said. She stopped. He looked at her over Ruth's sleeping head, in the specific direct way that was his only way. Do you want to leave? He said. No, she said. Then stay, he said. It's not that simple, she said. Why not? He said. She looked at him. Because I was on the post office steps. She said, I was on the steps because my husband left me in a train station and I had nowhere to go. That's not... She stopped. That's not the same as choosing to be somewhere. He was quiet for a moment. You negotiated $4 a month, he said. She looked at him. On the post office steps, he said. You were 7 months pregnant and you'd been there for 11 days and you negotiated $4 a month. I offered 3. She said nothing. That's not someone who doesn't have choices, he said. That's someone who had a bad thing happen and kept their head anyway. She looked at the account book. I want to ask you something, he said. Ask it, she said. If you could be anywhere, he said. If the last 4 months hadn't happened, and you could start from wherever you wanted to start from, where would you be? She thought about it honestly. She thought about Chicago, which had been Martin's city more than hers. She thought about the sister in Ohio she was not close to. She thought about the train and the window and the Colorado mountains coming up out of nowhere, which she had looked at through the glass and thought, those are new. She looked at the kitchen she had been running for 4 months, at the pantry she had organized, at the account book in front of her, at the man in the chair by the fire with her daughter asleep on his chest, talking about her the way he talked about things he was around, like she was real and present and worth addressing. Here, she said. It surprised her to say it. It did not surprise her that it was true. He held her gaze. Then stay, he said. Not because you have nowhere else, because you want to. She looked at the account book. The accounts are better than they were, she said. Yes, he said. The pantry system is working, she said. Yes, he said. Ruth has opinions about you specifically, she said. I know, he said. She's going to be difficult, she said. I know that too, he said. She looked at him. Dell, she said. May. Thank you, she said. For the post office steps, for staying in the kitchen, for... She stopped. It was the right thing, he said. I know, she said. That's what I'm thanking you for. Ruth made the sound she made when she was about to wake up, which was preliminary and purposeful. Dell looked down at her. Morning, he said to her. Ruth opened her eyes and found his face, and went still in the way she went still, the absolute locating stillness of someone who has found the fixed point. May looked at both of them. She thought, this is what it looks like when someone stays. She thought, I am going to stop being surprised by it and simply let it be what it is. She went back to the accounts. Outside, the February evening did what Colorado evenings did, which was to be cold and clear and full of stars, indifferent to what was happening in the kitchen of one ranch 2 miles east of Mineral Creek, which was simply this: a woman and a man and a baby and the fire going and the particular quiet of people who had found, without particularly looking, the place they were going to be.